Greetings, Japan fans. In today's show, we're going to talk about how to build a media empire from zero in Japan. Maishu arigatou and welcome back to the Leadership Japan series. I am your host in Tokyo, Dr. Greg Story, your corporate coaching and training guide, the president of Dale Carnegie Training Japan, the best-selling author of Japan Sales Mastery. We have also a new book, another bestseller on Amazon called Japan Business Mastery. We are broadcasting around the world from Minato-ku in the center of Tokyo, the leadership capital of Japan. This podcast brings insights, examples, and experience about leading in Japan. Trust me, it is different here. If you have feedback on the show or preferences about potential future topics, then leave us your comments. Don't forget to rate, review, subscribe, and share this podcast. Now, here's the daily lineup of podcasts, which we run every week on iTunes. So Mondays, the Cutting Edge Japan Business Show. Tuesday, the Presentation Japan series. Wednesdays, the Sales Japan series. Thursdays, the Leadership Japan series, and Fridays, the Japan Business Mastery Show. Before we get going, today's handy Japanese phrase is, well, I still don't know. Someone is asking you something, you're not quite sure when something's going to be ready or when you're going to receive something, and you don't quite know. You say, mada wakanai, mada wakanai, mada wakanai. Now, this is very informal. Normally, in a more polite language, you'd say, mada wakarimasen, mada wakarimasen. But informally, between friends, you can say, mada wakanai, mada wakanai, mada wakanai, mada wakanai. So rather informal, mada wakanai, mada wakanai. For someone who needs a bit more formal, a bit more senior person, then you wouldn't say that. You'd say, mada wakarimasen, mada wakarimasen. Mada wakarimasen. This is episode number 347, and we are talking about building a media empire in Japan from scratch. And this is an interview with Robert Heldt, who is the founder and president of Custom Media here in Japan. Let's hear from Robert. Welcome back to another episode of Japan's top business interviews. Today, my special guest is an old friend of mine, Robert Heldt, who runs Custom Media here in Japan. Robert, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Greg, and great to be on the show. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, great pleasure to have you on. So, Robert, you're very well known. Custom Media is very well known around town, but for people who don't know you, for our listeners who may be overseas, don't know what's going on in Japan, can you talk a little bit about your background, how you turned up in Japan and how you've had this business career and how you've become an entrepreneur in Japan and what sort of companies you've run?
Thank you. I'm originally from Chennai in the southeast coast of India. And after graduating, I started my career in the Maldives in the hospitality industry. I entered entry level, working the front desk, and then worked my way up there. I was there for about 6 years. And I was promoted to front office supervisor and then accommodations and guest relations officer, in which role I had to lead teams. And that was my first time to lead a diverse team. Being in the Maldives and being an Indian company, of course, we had many Indian staff, but we also had the local Maldivians, we had Bangladeshi staff, we had Sri Lankans and several other nationalities as well. So in the front office department, I had to deal with international staff, so trying to understand their cultures, trying to understand how to motivate them. So it was quite a fascinating career for me. And also, being in the tourism industry, it gave me an opportunity to work with, tourists from all over the world, from Europe, from different parts of Asia, and so on. I was there for about 6 years. Then I moved to Japan in 2004.
What made you come to Japan in 2004? Why leave the sunny Maldives for Japan, huh?
Sure. My wife's Japanese. I met my wife in the Maldives, and then we got married in India, and we were there for about a year. And then we moved to Japan in 2004. And the first thing that struck me was just the advertising world. It was, everywhere. It was in your face. It was everywhere I went. I was just, distracted by this advertising clutter. And I just felt like this seems like a very interesting industry, and it seems like it's happening here. So I was so curious about advertising. So I wanted to get into advertising. So I started working for a publisher in advertising sales department, doing advertising sales. I was there for about 3 years. I became the sales manager, and I just found that there was no more growth, and I wanted to do something different. And I wanted to, I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I've always wanted to start my own business. So that maybe the timing is right. I saw an opportunity in the market for bilingual media, and that was it. So I set out about 2008 to start Custom Media.
And I think what was your first publication? Where did you start from in your publications?
At the time, I launched a magazine called Duplex Lifestyle. It was a bilingual magazine for a service residence operator. It was just before the Lehman shock, which is, really bad timing, because after the Lehman shock, the business pretty much folded, and my contract for the magazine, after 2 issues was pretty much, evaporated. So I had to think on my feet and do something different. So I took the same concept and launched a magazine called WITHIM, or What's in It for Me, which is more of a bilingual lifestyle, travel magazine, which could be found in several other service residences, including the Mori residences, found in hotels like the Shangri-La and so on. And from that, I, went to the British Chamber of Commerce. So I didn't have a magazine at the time, and, pitched to them the idea of launching a magazine for the chamber. And in, mid-2009, they awarded me the contract. And in 2009, November, I launched the first issue of BCCJ Acumen. So we just celebrate our 10th anniversary of BCCJ Acumen.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
So here you are, you've come out of the hospitality industry. You're working in the sales job, selling the advertising space to companies. You start one publication, Lehman shock, contract doesn't continue, you start again. So how many people did you have at the beginning there, and how many people is it today, and what sort of publications are you covering today?
Sure. Back then, we were a very small operation. I had about 3 staff, just 2 sales staff, a designer and an editor and myself. So my business partner, Simon, and I, myself. So we were a very small team, close-knit team.
So how do you convince people to join that? This is how long ago now? This is
about 10 years ago.
10 years ago,
yes,
right?
Yeah.
To join a startup. I don't think the word startup even existed in Japan 10 years ago to any great extent. And so people here are very risk-averse, cautious about who they join as an employer. How did you convince people to come on board? That must have been a pretty good sales job.
Yes, it was quite difficult, but I think they saw the passion, they saw, the vision, and they could see, opportunities for them to grow in the organization. So I'd given them, chances to learn and grow and achieve something with me. And I think they saw that in me, and they came on board. Yeah.
And how many of those were Japanese? How many were non-Japanese?
I had 1 Japanese staff who was the...
Still with you?
No, she's not with us anymore, but yeah. And then 2 salespeople from non-Japanese.
Non-Japanese, right? And today, how big are you today, and how many magazines do you cover today?
Today, we cover 3 other magazines. We do the American Chamber of Commerce monthly magazine. And we
That's
do
the ACC Journal.
That's right,
Yep,
the journal.
The journal, yeah.
And we do the Canadian, which is the quarterly magazine for the Canadian Chamber of Commerce. We also work with the Tokyo American Club. What we do is purely advertising sales support. And so we are the exclusive advertising agency.
This is for INTOUCH.
INTOUCH magazine,
yes,
right.
okay.
So, and apart from that, we also have, annual magazines. We do a magazine for Housing Japan. Again, kind of similar. They do the production, but we handle the content, sales of advertising and so on.
You still got the British Chamber, Acumen.
We still have the British Chamber. And then most recently in June of this year, we partnered with Dow Jones, the publisher of the Wall Street Journal newspaper, to launch their global magazine called Mansion Global, which is a luxury real estate magazine printed globally and a website portal. So we launched the Japanese version of that in Japan, reaching Wall Street Journal subscribers and a wider audience. So it's a Japanese language magazine. It's our first fully Japanese magazine. And it's also a website portal for real estate listings, luxury listings this is.
And how many people are in the company now?
At the moment, we are about, give or take, 25 to 27 people. So with us, totally about 30 people in the organization.
And what's the sort of Japanese, non-Japanese mix?
We have about 6 Japanese staff, but very diverse. I would say in our small team, we've got about 14 nationalities.
14 nationalities in that team?
Yes.
Wow.
That's fascinating.
Well, let's talk about leading in Japan then, because that's a nice segue into some of the complexities. Now, you've started, as you say, relatively small, and then you've gradually grown over that period of time. But when you first started out, you'd been in a managerial role in the Maldives, and then you're working in sales, so you're not really managing staff per se, but now you're starting your own company and you've got to manage people. What were some of the challenges you found of managing staff in Japan?
I think initially to get buy-in, I think like you mentioned earlier, how did you get them to join you and to be able to get them to understand your vision, understand what you're trying to achieve here, and to get buy-in to the organization, buy-in to your vision and your style of leadership, and also then motivate.
How would you describe your style of leadership that they had to get buy-in to?
I would say freedom to do what they do, and also give them the tools, and giving them the guidance and support, help making sure that they see growth in the organization, and giving them training. So as you know, we send a lot of our team to Dale Carnegie training for several courses, investing in them. People these days also care about their careers, care about their movement, showing them that there is opportunities to grow and become a leader themselves. And that helps to motivate them. That is very important. Motivating people is something that I'm always invested in. And keeps them engaged with the business, keeps them engaged with the organization, and helps them to see a career path for themselves. So
you've got a small team, you're trying to sell them on the idea. You just described your leadership style. So as you've developed and as you've grown, have you come across any particular things which prove to be problematic or challenging, particularly as a leader here in Japan?
I would say, in an organization like ours, because it's very diverse, the challenge is always culture, understanding the various cultural nuances.
Is that because it's that 14 different nationalities issue? Is that the...
Yes, and also, understanding the different, the cultures that they come from, and their experiences, right? So, and in Japan, understanding the Japanese culture as well. So I think it's important to understand their different cultural nuances and how that, in turn, plays in the workplace.
So what sort of nuances are they?
Communication is a challenge, right? So, you're
talking about language?
Language and communication styles. Mm-hmm. Some cultures might be more passive. Some, cultures might be more active. It might be seen as aggressive, but, that's not, the reality. So trying to balance the different cultural aspects of the way they communicate. And of course, language plays a big role as well. We've got 40 nationalities. Not all nationalities are native English language speakers. Mm-hmm. So trying to, so you've got Europeans, you've got Asians from other, parts of Asia. Then of course you've got Japanese, and also you've got Native Americans and Brits and so on. So trying to, communicate effectively, and also trying to see, where they are going. I think that's kind of the challenge.
Yeah, and my experience with Indian culture mm-hmm. is that Indians love talking.
Oh, yes.
Very talkative race, I found. So I'm wondering, you talk about some cultures are rather passive mm-hmm. and don't do a lot of talk. I think the Japanese can be like that, rather listening very carefully, not talking up much, maybe not volunteering an opinion. Mm-hmm. Did you sort of strike any barriers coming from a culture which is quite effusive, mm-hmm. I would suggest, and loves to debate, loves to talk, yep. with a very passive, curious, maybe a little bit conservative approach?
Yes, all the time, I would say. And I think it's like I mentioned earlier, I think that's important to understand the different cultures, because often you wonder if they are, understanding what you're saying, or whether are you talking too fast, or, if, you start second guessing So I think what I've learned is to stop and ask and be a good listener. So when you be a good listener, you're able to actually hear them out and kind of push them to share their opinion in a nice way, so that I think helps. And I think with a very young workforce, we don't have that problem because everybody speaks up, and I try to nurture that style of work environment where everybody, no matter age or seniority in the organization, can share their opinion, can share their ideas, and keep it very open that way. And that really helps to get buy-in and get engagement from the team.
And do you find that rich mix of 14 different nationalities has an impact on creativity, because you've got such diversity there and people are willing to speak up? Does it lead to advantages around that area?
Totally. That's our creative edge. That's our competitive advantage, if you may, because we can get different ideas. We can get what's worked in other countries, and then how we can localize that in the context in Japan. And that really is our secret sauce, I would say, to our success.
Have you found that you are attracting a certain type of Japanese person to work in the company who's open and flexible and like that? Or are you finding that the sort of general cultural mix is encouraging them to speak up more and be a bit more open and a bit more transparent, maybe a bit more vocal? Or how is that working out?
I think it's a bit of both. I think initially when I interview and hire the Japanese staff who like to come work for us, often I hear one of the reasons why I ask them, why would you like to work in an organization like this? One of the reasons why, what they give me is that they like to work in an international setting where they get an opportunity to, speak in English and interact in English. And often, the team that joins Custom Media have either worked abroad, studied abroad, lived abroad. So they have an international mindset to start with. That being said, though, when they start in the workplace, it takes them a while to kind of, adjust to the pace of and the communication styles. And so then
when you say the pace of the communication styles, is this just the speed of talking, or you're talking about the sort of speed of thought?
Speed of thought, definitely speed of thought. And, language can play a role in that, because, there are different, I think what you'll find is understanding words and colloquial, British English or American English or phrases sometimes
I have trouble with American English. Sometimes being an Australian, I don't follow the TV shows, or I don't have the cultural background. I don't know. Sometimes I've got no idea what they're talking about. So
exactly. So there you go. So that does take a while for them to understand and adjust. And also I think they find probably, is it my turn to speak? Do I need permission? So you got to keep encouraging them, even though they come in with an international mindset. You need to encourage them and get them to open up. And of course, everybody's different. You get, those who just come in and from day one, they're switched in and they're ready to go. And then those that need time to, adjust and adapt. And, those that stay do get that, and they do grow with us. And I've had, Japanese team members who come in, they're very shy to start with. And then by the time, 2-3 years, and if they move on, they've just, blossomed into this, full-fledged, professional that they're proud to go on and do new things.
The foreign population here is basically a transient population to a great extent. I mean, people like you and I have been here a long time and probably will be here forever. Well, I'll be here forever. I'm not sure about you, but I'll be here forever. But the Japanese population, obviously this is their home country. Have you found that you've been successful in retaining your Japanese team members, particularly given in the current market the sort of demand for Japanese English-speaking staff is very high, and there's an army of recruiters out there trying to get them to jump ship and come to another company. Have you found your retention ability for those Japanese staff in the current market?
It's definitely challenging. Yeah, the market dynamics is such that there's more jobs than there's talent out there, and especially if you're bilingual and you've got experience working in an international environment, then you're prime target. But I think, the way we manage to retain staff is by, giving them opportunities to grow and giving them new challenges. And then they see that, growth. And it's often not just about, I get more pay. It's also having a satisfying role and having that freedom to work. I think that flexibility and freedom, where they find it's a welcoming work environment. They get along well with their colleagues. They have a meaningful work day, so they feel satisfied.
Are they working here till 11 o'clock like they do in Japanese companies?
No, not at Custom Media. No.
Yeah. So what in that sense are you offering? We talk about hataraki kaikaku, the reform of work styles. What are you offering here for that group to be more attractive as an employer?
I think we have a very good work-life balance. So we're a 9:30 to 6:30 organization. Granted, if there are key deadlines and someone needs to work an hour or so additionally, then that's fine. But generally 6:30 people go home. And that encourages others to go home as well. I think that's very important. So that could also be another reason why people would prefer to stay.
Today's show is brought to you by our public courses, but we also do custom in-house programs as well. We do these both in Japanese and English. So this show today is sponsored by two programs. A one-day program on innovational leadership, that's on March the 27th, where we go through how to get innovation from the team, how to get creativity from the team as a leader. And then we have our 3-day version of our immersion version of leadership training for managers. That's normally a 7-week program, but we also do offer it as a 3-day immersion program. So that 3-day program is coming up May 8th, 29th, and then June 19th. So leadership training for managers, May 8th, 29th, and June 19th. And the reason we split that out a little bit is because often people say, I can't take 3 days off in a row. My schedule won't allow it. I'm so busy, got so much on. Can't you break it out a bit more? So we do break it out. We give you, 1 day, basically, every couple of weeks. May 8th, a little bit of a break. Then you got May 29th, and a little bit of a break. You got June 19th. Great program. I mean, this is the Swiss Army knife of leadership training. It's incredible. It covers everything. And I mean everything. Very, very, very solid program. Now, most Japanese managers got zero training, really. A little bit of on-the-job training from their bosses, who got a little bit of training from their bosses, and they got a little bit of on-the-job training from their bosses. So it's a pretty damn thin, amount of content by the time it gets to this generation of leaders. Instead, you want to have the full Monty, you want to have the whole Swiss Army knife of leadership training. This is the program, Leadership Training for Managers, coming up May 8th, 29th, and then June 19th. And for those who want to get more innovation in the company going through the leadership position, Innovation Leadership, that's on March 27th, not that far away. Our website is full of useful resources. Go to enjapan.dalecarnegie.com. You can email me at greg.story@dalecarnegie.com. If you like learning by watching videos, we've got nearly 900 over there at Japan Dale Carnegie TV on YouTube. We release 2 TV shows every week on YouTube. The Cutting Edge Japan Business Show, that's a premier business show in Japan every Monday, Tokyo time. And Fridays we have the Japan Business Mastery Show. And also get my book, Japan Sales Mastery. That's the Bible for selling in Japan. And my other book, Japan Business Mastery, which you can get that on Amazon too. You talked before about multicultural workforce, innovation, creativity. You're a creative agency in your area, so part of the creativity process is rather messy. Mistakes happen. You try things, they don't work, they blow up, or they go wrong, or trying to get people to break out of their normal everyday think differently. There comes also the balance of it's not all going to be perfectly smooth and perfected from the day one. How do you balance that? Let's be creative and dealing with mistakes when they come up. How do you get that balance working for you?
I think the very first thing, I tell my team is there's no, crazy ideas or stupid ideas, so that is a ground, baseline. So that encourages them to think differently, be creative, be crazy, think wild, think different, think out of the box.
How do you make them believe that? Because, particularly Japanese, they might be thinking, oh, he says that, but I'll just hold back because I'm not really sure. If I say something wild and crazy, people might think I'm an idiot. So I'm not going to I'm not going to be transparent. How do you overcome that reluctance to actually break out of your cultural construct and put your ideas out there, risking that they might be a bit wild and crazy?
Yeah, by implementing them, by leading them on to, have further discussions. As if somebody pitches an idea and that sounds good or sounds interesting, then, others encourage their idea and help to take it further,
So that's a crazy idea that isn't something you're going to implement. How do you deal with encouraging people to keep coming with ideas?
Well, if it's not implementable in this particular situation or this particular project or for this particular client, we bring it up for future. We reuse it. We bring it out again in a different setting, and so they know that if it doesn't work here, it will work somewhere else. And so it's never forgotten. And we always, when we start discussions, we think about are there other ideas that we've got that worked in other places or that would have worked, but wasn't implemented for whatever reason. So we try and bring those ideas back to life. And that really helps the process as well, because then we just feed off that. We probably have a laugh about that idea, think about why it didn't work. And then that really creates that mood to think again like that, I think. And that encourages people to, bring ideas out and, never get shot down. And mistakes happen, we are all human beings. So, I rather take an approach, seeing why the mistake happened, trying to learn from that and how do we fix it? And is it a fixable mistake? And trying to make sure that the same mistakes don't happen. So giving them room to learn. Granted, probably the same mistake will happen once, maybe twice, maybe 3 times. But if it happens too often, then there's something wrong. We definitely need to zero in and sort it out. But giving them the space that if it happens, that's trying to get them to understand why it happened, see what steps need to be to prevent it. And if it happens again, then really trying to dig down and see why. What could be the cause for that happening again. But I find my team very responsive to, and if they make a mistake, they put their hands up and they say, you know what, I screwed up here. This was not supposed to be printed this way. It got printed this way, whatever, right? So, the fact that they bring their mistakes openly kind of gives me more confidence in them that they're going to not hide, put things under the rug. And that gives a very open, honest discussion. And shows others that, if I make a mistake, that's fine. I'm not going to get shot for this.
So if I turn up to you and I say, Robert, I've screwed this up. We should have done it like this, and I got the logo around the wrong way or upside down or something, some mistake. What are the first words that come out of your mouth in response to that? Because in a typical Japanese organisation, the first words out of their mouth would be something like, you're an idiot. Yeah. I mean, you read about these things come up these days with power harassment.
Yeah.
I remember I was reading one article, the guy was recalling back in his youth, not that long ago, that when he made a mistake, his boss threw an ashtray at him.
Wow.
All this sort of stuff, right? Yeah. So very exciting in the Japanese side of things. But here at Custom Media, if someone comes up and says, hey, listen, I screwed this up, this would have been like this, what are the first things that you're saying to them?
Do you know why it happened? So, if they don't, then they go and try and find out what happened, help them to find out why it happened. But what I get now, especially with my senior team members, is they come and tell me this happened and here's why this happened. So they come prepared. They know, this is what we should have done. This is what we could have done. We were doing things in a hurry. We needed to get it out urgently. There was pressure from. So explaining the whole situation is why it would have happened, and so here are the options of how we can fix it. So I think that level of engagement, I'm really proud to say my team brings it. And they don't just show up and say, I made a mistake.
So for people who are leading Japanese teams, particularly, or any team for that matter, and mistakes happen. That's a very good habit, I would say, of totally. The first words coming out of your mouth aren't, you idiot, how could you do that? Instead of something like that, saying, I see, why do you think that happened? And so you're having more of a conversation which is looking to a solution rather than accusing people of stupidity or, chastising them for lack of attention or whatever it might be, whatever the crime misdemeanor might be. So that's a good hint. And you're finding that across the board with your 14 nationalities, that works pretty well?
Absolutely, yeah. I think that really, works well. And, often because each department works closely with one another, they share responsibility, they share mistakes. So it's not just down to one person. It could be, down to communication between team members that doesn't get passed on. So, it's a shared responsibility as well, and when it's a shared responsibility, they know to not allocate blame, oh, this happened because he did this or she did this, but we missed this, and here's why we missed this. So then that's teamwork, that really, helps. Yeah.
Well, one of the things too about Japan can be because it's a no fault, no defect, no mistake culture, and people take this stuff very, very seriously, that often their first instinct is to hide it. And there's always a pretty good chance the boss won't find out about it.
Mm-hmm.
You'll sort of ninja at hiding things. And usually by the time the boss finds out, it's too late. And the boss's ability to access time, power and money doesn't help much because of the sort of time factor. But have you ever had that issue where people may not have really understood your approach to it and have actually been trying to hide stuff because they're worried about the retribution or worried about getting fired or worried about being scolded?
I think probably in my earlier days in the company, it might have happened. And I think even there, sooner or later, it comes out because, someone's got to pay for it. And in a small organization, it will come out eventually. And, so I think giving that person time to own up to that mistake helps. And I find that approach, then you kind of slowly probe into, do you know what happened here? This happened, seems like there was a mistake here. So giving them a little bit more, leeway into owning up to it, helping them along that process helps. And then eventually when they kind of go back and reflect, they might have thought it's not a mistake. So trying to get them to understand that there was a mistake or they were probably part of it or they were the reason it happened. That helps them to also own their mistake. And when they own it, then you look at a solution, right? Then you address it correctly. So it's a time lag. It could be just that the person didn't think it was wrong, and it could be, okay, well, that's what I thought I heard him say. Right? This is coming back to the communication and language and nuance and culture, kind of probably misinterpreting what the request was and just doing things, without thinking if that's the right thing or not.
Mm-hmm. And so in terms of encouraging people to go the extra mile, Japan is a country where there's sort of like a naturally built-in cultural loyalty factor around association with the organisation. They tend to be loyal. But being passionate or being enthusiastic or going the extra mile doesn't necessarily come in addition to that loyalty. They can be loyal and rather passive. They can be loyal and rather do their job and go home. How do you encourage people to go beyond just being loyal, but to be having some passion, having some commitment, ready to go the extra mile, particularly in your business where you have a lot of deadlines with those publications you mentioned? How do you encourage that mentality?
I think the easiest way to do that is to reward and appreciate success, and that really helps to feed off that continued success. And also,
so how do you do that? Say, for example, someone does do something where they go the extra, come on the weekend or stay late or come in early or really, do something to hold it all together. There's been a problem. And they've clearly done something that was beyond the norm or beyond what you'd normally expect. What is the reward? Is it money? Is it praise? Is it lunch? How do you reward them?
It's a combination of all that, I'd say. And yes, it is appreciating them, publicly appreciating them. And then, of course, you could have, depending on the person as well, it could be a one-on-one, it could be a lunch, it could be could be whatever motivates that person, or whatever mechanism works for that person. I think it's very important.
How do you know what motivates each person?
Trying to get to understand them. Trying to understand each of your team members is important. Then you can know what motivates them, spending time to get to know them.
But you've got 25, 26, 27 people here.
It is difficult.
And my observation of you is you're probably one of the busiest executives in Tokyo. How does a busy boss, who's got lots of things that they need to do, carve out time to really spend with their team, who are also pretty busy, to really get to know them?
In the workspace, you can do that. It doesn't have to be, regular lunches, although that would be great, spending time, one-on-one with each individual. I do have annual reviews with them. I have a very open door policy. So if they have a problem or a question or a request to, come up to me directly and, not have to worry about, am I going to step on my manager's toes? So just giving them that, that freedom, that reassurance that, they're not going to do any wrong helps. And, I think during your workday, you can, I can interact with my team. I try to interact with them on a regular basis, during the workday. That helps as well. And, I think the combination of all that really helps.
So you talked about you have some cash, maybe some money in terms of reward, recognition, knowing what they, like, for example, a classic, they're a baseball fan, you get nice tickets, a great position, for the game, or is it that type of thing?
It really not necessarily is always cash, Of course, in their annual appraisals, you can review their progress, review what they've achieved during the year, and then that could, definitely improve their, annual salaries and so on.
Comes in bonus and salary increases.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. But like I said earlier, often it's not just about money. Of course, yes, people want to make more money and, have better lifestyles and have savings and so on. It's very important. But I think, when you know that you're part of something, when you know that you are, achieving something in your workplace and you're growing in the workplace, that's what I find most rewarding. I think at the moment I have one of my senior, leaders who's taking the Dale Carnegie course, and just by interacting with her, I can see her blossom, and just her her appreciation of doing the course and thanking me for giving me the opportunity to do that. That for me is where I see people have more loyalty, have more dedication, and have more passion in what they do. It's not just about the money, although it is important.
She did well too. She won 3 prizes.
Oh, really?
She won the Breakthrough Award. She won a Outstanding Presentations Award, and either maybe a Crashing Through Award or a Human Relations Award. I just can't quite remember what the third one was, but pretty good job, getting 3. So well done for her. So that giving people the opportunity to get that type of external training as a reward for someone who's stepped up, they get to do that. Other people see that that's happening.
Absolutely.
So they realise, okay, if I make an effort here, I will be recognised and there will be something in it for me.
Absolutely. And also, spotting talent and seeing where they might need, skills or training. I've got 2 of my team members doing JMEC this year. And that's another program that
That's the Japan Market Expansion Competition, where they get together in teams and write a business plan for real clients with
Absolutely.
real problems. And they present them in a written form as a business plan and an oral form in the actual presentation to the panel of judges, right?
Yeah, and I've had several of my team members go through that training program, and who have really appreciated it and told me several times what they've learned from it, and now they look at things now differently in business. I have my sales team do regular sales training. So it's all part of that process. Like I said, it's about at the end of the day, when they move on from custom media, they should look back and see what have they achieved while they were at custom media, and then that's for me is achieving something while they're here. Paying them salaries, paying them commissions, bonuses, whatever is the bare minimum. That's what you need to. But beyond that, you gotta give them opportunities to learn and grow. And I'm a firm believer in continuous education, and I think it's important for every individual. Doesn't matter your age or your seniority or position. You have opportunities to learn, and you should take it on, and you should push yourself. So that's what I advocate to my team, and I'm glad that many of my team members do see it and they do participate. And I got a younger Japanese team member who's gonna go off and do a 1-day course on social media. Social media is a big thing, so it's a rapidly developing industry. So we need to keep up with the trends and what's happening. So and this person came to me and said, I would like to do this. I've done some research, and I think this would help me in my job. This would help me in my career. And I'm like, yeah, sure. Tell me what it is. Explain to me why. Sure, I'll support you. Go ahead.
So you're funding.
Absolutely. Yeah.
This.
Yeah.
And I guess there are, as I said, I think big market now for English-speaking Japanese. Mm-hmm. There are 1.6 jobs available for every person looking in the market at the moment. You've got recruiting companies have grown from 30 people to 300 people in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
My company's not at 300 people yet. But anyway, so in terms of that concern that some people might have about investing in people, providing training, worrying that they're actually helping them to be leveraged out of the company to another company, do you have any fears about that?
Not at all. I think if you do that, and the individual will see that you're going to invest more in them and during their tenure with you, I don't think that should be worry for anybody. What's the classic joke? The CFO goes to the CEO and says, we're paying this person, and what if he leaves? And the CEO says, well, what if he doesn't? And he stays, and you haven't trained him, right? So I think you got to take that approach, and if you invest in people reinvest their time and their effort and their energy back into your business. And, that's the least you can do.
If you want to be successful as a leader, do the Leadership Training for Managers course. All companies need people who can both manage and lead. Leading people screams out for real skills in communication, dealing with all different types of people, being excellent at innovation, planning, delegation, handling mistakes, doing performance reviews really well, and inspiring and motivating the team. Do the Leadership Training for Managers course now in either Japanese or English. Probably for a company of this size, you've grown quite a bit in the last couple of years. Have you found any challenges that came from a change in scale? They say that I don't know why the number 15 pops up, but it's often quoted as once you get to 15, you can pretty much run the company yourself. But as soon as it goes over 15, you can no longer run it by yourself. You've got to work through other people. And this is where the complexity goes up. It's, scale and complexity grow. How did you find bridging that? If 15 is the magic number, or 16 or 14, whatever it might be. Because there's a flipping point there around scale where just your ability to actually lead as you did in the past changes. How did you find making that adjustment? And what did you do to make that adjustment?
Sure. I think you're right. I think about 14, 15, 16, whatever the number is, you can be present in all situations. You know what's going on. I think you have got more personal connections with the team. You're spending more time with every individual, and I think it's easy for you to have a bird's eye view of what's happening and step in whenever you're needed, and kind of predict what's going to happen with your experience and your knowledge, and you'll be in any situation and you know what to do and you have the outcomes. That therein lies the challenge, because you've got all the knowledge. It's all up here. Right, so I think the first biggest challenge for me as we grew the business was learning to delegate and learning to build other leaders. I think that's the biggest challenge for leaders today. It's not just their own leadership styles and how they lead an organization, but how do they create new leaders? How do they develop new leaders?
Well, delegation's always a sensitive subject with leaders, because the clarion call is always, it would be faster if I did it myself.
Yep.
They feel that investing in people to train them on how to do something is wasting their valuable time. They just do it themselves and move on, right? So how do you delegate? Do you have a process for delegation? How do you think about delegation in terms of the actual execution piece?
I think, delegation is not about just giving them, okay, this is it, it's yours now, do it. It's about...
That's called dumping.
That's called dumping, yeah. But it's about, showing them, the steps, or helping them to understand what the end goal is, or where, the goal is, and then guiding them through the process, and then being available, whenever they have questions, to come back to you, check in with you to make sure you're on the right track, because you might delegate and they'll be going in this direction and you wanted them to go in this direction. Then, you get to the end and they've kind of like gone off the wrong track, and then that becomes a mess.
So what you're talking about there is keeping an eye
Absolutely
on the process. But how do you balance between just keeping a watchful eye on what's going on without micromanaging the process? How do you get that balance right?
Having regular check-ins, having them to check in with you, having them to submit work, and then you check it and then give feedback on the work done, and then, getting them to make decisions for themselves, is always the challenge, right? You can quickly make a decision and say, do this. But now what I try to do is get them to make a decision and tell me why they made the decision. That helps when delegating as well.
So you're looking at having more ownership on their side by having more freedom to make a decision on how things are done, rather than you telling people, do this, then do this, then do this, then do this. Okay. That tends to be a very typical Japanese process of, you'll do this, and then I want you to do this, then you do this, then, like they're really ordering it out. So it must be quite interesting. Did you find with your Japanese team members in particular, where you're doing some sort of delegation, that they were sort of flipping it around and sort of expecting to be told by you how to do each step?
Not so much, to be honest, because I think, by now they understand expectations, and if they have a question or, they need some clarity on it, they are happy to, stop by and check in. That's very important. So I think they really get on with it, and I think having a culture of don't worry about mistakes helps, because then they don't fear, am I going in the right direction? And, having regular check-ins, having a watchful eye helps you to keep them on track. So if they are, going off track, then you can say, okay, well, this probably is not the direction we should be going. How did we get here? What should be done? Trying to put them back on track.
Do you have any particular methodology for selling the benefits of delegation to the team? Because often team members can feel it's an imposition. The boss is giving me their job to do. I've got my own job already, and I'm damn busy doing that. And you turn up, now I've got to do your job, and it doesn't feel like there's anything in it for them. You had a magazine called "What's in It for Me," I think, wasn't it? And so, what's in it for them? How do you communicate that there's actually a benefit to them in taking on this delegated job?
Well, I think if they see that they're going to learn how to do something, they're going to grow, that helps them for sure. And I think, it's not just about giving them, a task to do. And for them, it's about seeing where they fit into it and how what they do now will help them in their career progression in the organization. So then that helps them to go on and build teams and lead teams. So they see that, okay, this responsibility is going to help me improve in my career and then give me the skills I need for handling this in the future. So I think that's important. That really helps, and that's how I try to manage it.
And how about your middle managers? How many middle managers, department heads would you have?
I've got 4 department heads.
You have 4 department heads, right? And so those 4 department heads are now running those departments for you. So you're mainly interacting with your direct reports?
That's right, yeah.
Right. And how did you find things that worked well in doing that? Because, again, you said you've got 14 nationalities now. So for those department heads, they've probably got multiple nationalities in their departments as well. Probably their degree of experience in leading is not as great as yours. How do you educate them become better leaders?
I have one-on-one sessions with them, trying to understand their challenges, ask them about how things are going in their team, helping them to understand, what are the challenges they have in the team and helping them to address those challenges, having, meaningful discussion with them, and then giving them advice on, if they need, like, how would you do it, giving them the right advice, but also, expecting them to take responsibility. I think people like responsibility if they see that it is going to improve, their ability to manage a team. So I think that's very important. Helping them to, find out what the challenges are by themselves and finding out how to address them is important, I think.
As an entrepreneur, it's your money. This whole operation is your own money, as opposed to if you're working for a corporate, it's not your money. You get paid a certain amount of money. You probably get rewards through bonuses and incentives and that type of thing, but it's not your own money. The people who work for you, it's not their business. So how do you get them to take the same degree of commitment and pride and care about the business when they don't own it?
It can be challenging, but I think, if they see the results, and like I said earlier, I think if they are part of achieving something, that's what I love about my team. They really are, great achievers. They strive for the best. They strive for the best quality, and they have the passion to deliver and address our client challenges. Often, I think when we work together, as a team, solving problems is our key goal. So coming together and trying to address a problem for a client, a marketing challenge, or a market entry challenge, or whatever it is, when they are working together, a team, that sense of satisfaction and achievement is there, and they feel it. And I do my best to bring it to them and get them to be involved in everything. Being involved gives you personal satisfaction because you've achieved something during the day. It's not just you came in and you knock on the keyboard and then you go off, right? But it's being involved, doing something meaningful, doing something that you can be proud of. You
won a British Business Award 4 years ago, was it? 5 years ago now?
That's right, yes, about 5 years ago.
4 or 5 years ago, right? And that's a very competitive prize. It was Company of the Year, I think. So as a small company, you were knocking off some pretty big rivals to win that. And I'm sure there was a lot of work to go into the application process and, nerve-wrackingly sitting there in the evening wondering if you're going to be a finalist or not. What was the impact on the team from doing something like that, where you talk about gathering people together, having pride in the organisation, having pride in what they do? What was the impact of that, and did you drive it in any particular way after that internally?
Definitely the impact of, winning on the night was phenomenal for us, for the few of us who would attend the event. And then, following that back in the office with the rest of the team members, celebrating that was something fantastic.
How did you celebrate it?
Oh, we had a party in the office. Yes, we shared the winnings with everybody. We had a team event.
So there was cash involved, and you spread it out to everybody. So
there wasn't cash involved.
Well, what a shame. Okay.
But just a sense of achieving and winning on the night, and definitely that has helped. Definitely given the team members at the time a sense of pride and sense of achieving something and meaning and purpose, and seeing their work being rewarded. For sure, and that's definitely also helped. Since then, to grow the organization. And when nowadays candidates that are looking to join a company, they do all their research. They look you up, look up your company, what you've achieved, and often candidates tell me, oh, I saw you guys won the award, and what was that like, and so on. So they feel they're joining, being a part of something, being a part of a company or an organization that has the capability to win awards and be part of an award-winning team. That definitely helps.
That's interesting. You're putting the award information out on your site. Candidates are doing much more research today before they even take the chance to have an interview. So you've found that a plus, and so that's very interesting. Putting that out there in terms of free advertising, in a sense, I guess, about the culture of the company. The success of the company, the prestige, recognition of the company. That's interesting. When did you start to notice that candidates were doing that type of research? Because in the old days, no one did that. They barely turn up half organised for their interviews. But today, that sounds like they're a bit more switched on.
Absolutely. And I think that's bare minimum now I expect from candidates. If they haven't done their research, then ask them, what do you know about us? Even before we meet them in person, we have a very thorough interview process. So if they've done their research and they know something about the organization, then that gives you also confidence in that there's somebody who wants to be a part of you, who can belong here. But if they don't, then there's just no way they're gonna pass the next round of interviews. But I also want to add that apart from just awards and positive messaging out there, what we also do for the community, we support a lot of charities. We do a lot of pro bono work. That's also a sense of satisfaction and achievement and pride for the team. Where they see that that the company is not just about making profits, not just about being successful, but also giving back to the community. And so we work with quite a lot of charities here, and we do what we can with the limited resources we have. That's important. So when you have a busy work day, you've got projects that you need to fulfill, the team goes the extra miles, takes time to work on projects that we know we're not getting paid for, but still bringing the same level of integrity and quality and passion in that work. That also is very fulfilling for a team that's very diverse, and that's another minimum expectations these days, I think, that candidates out there have about organizations, and what do they also do for the community. Do they share the same values? And I've had candidates tell me about that as well. I saw you did this and you did that, your organization does this. That really helps. It helps to drive engagement, helps to drive a sense of purpose, and that also helps inform them about the type of employer, custom media could be.
So possibly, and I'm thinking of one company in particular, which is my own, where we probably don't do a good enough job of celebrating the prizes that we get internally within the Dale Carnegie system. And we probably don't do a good enough job of advertising the CSR type of work we do. So maybe there are companies out there that could learn from what you're doing. And mine is one of them. I'm sitting here being very stimulated by what you're saying, thinking, gee, I better get back and get some of that stuff on the website and populate that a little bit more around those details, because we're doing them. We're just probably not maximising the opportunity to calculate with candidates, this is a great place to work. Yeah, in terms of, you also have an interesting business here, because you've got a whole creative team, because you're doing a physical, creation of design. You're doing video. You're also doing sales. How does that go, managing a creative team and managing a sales team? Because my experience, the creative mindset and the sales mindset are really totally different, but you've got to manage both. How do you go about managing both? And what's different between managing both?
First, I go with what's different with managing both. I would say understanding what motivates them, what gets them to take is very important. So with salespeople, it's all about performance. It's all about numbers. It's all about rewards, and understanding how they achieve that, and the tools and training and support you give them to help them achieve that is very important. And that's how I do it with my sales teams, to make sure that they are, reaping the rewards of their efforts. And
so that's through commissions.
Through commissions, right. And through, career progression, and through training and all that, right? And giving them, the freedom and flexibility as well. With the creative team, of course, it's about, recognizing the work they do, but also giving them the freedom to do that work. That's very important, because creative people, you can't push quality quickly. You can't push, I need a design like ASAP. Sometimes we do, and they're able to deliver it, and that's because they've learned that they've got the creative space, that it's not going to just be rejected. If it's not up to par, they know that the feedback is going to be how to improve it, not that I don't want this, show me something else. And that happens in some agencies. So
is that right? They just
show me what else you've got, right? But being able to guide them. Okay, maybe this is not right. Maybe this. Maybe giving them encouragement to try different things, and encouragement to explore and push the boundaries. So I think that's important for creative people as well.
Well, I've asked a lot of questions about leading in Japan, and you've got a very interesting company here, the way it's split up with creative sales, 14 different nationalities. You've been going, a number of years. Were there any things about leadership I should have asked you that I haven't asked?
There are probably a few things, and I've actually, made some notes there because I was thinking about this myself. What would be the other things, as a leader? And I think being patient is one of them. You have to be very patient, to give yourself time, because I think leaders tend to be impatient and they always they want results immediately.
That would be me, actually. Perfectly description of myself right there.
Right. So sometimes, allowing yourself to be patient and take your time and remaining positive, personally at all times. It's a big challenge, and it's important.
So what do you mean by that? Why is your personal positivism important in leadership?
I think because your personal positivity can influence others and impacts others. And there are, of course, days when you're having a bad day, and your body language, the way you interact, can quickly be picked up by your team and so on. And
so you're now a master actor of hiding your had a hard day at home or having a hard day in the business and not showing that? Are you good at that?
No, I still have room for improvement, and we all have our our difficult days, but I think trying to remain positive and pushing through even through challenging times. So being an entrepreneur, risk is something that we take on often. So when we're launching new products, launching new solutions, it's quite risky. But you need to learn to handle those risks, and try to control your emotion, and try to be as positive as you can. Even when things are not going as smoothly as they should be going. And that I think is an area for all leaders, and it doesn't matter in which positions they are in, whether they're a senior leader or a junior, smaller team leader. So I think those are the two areas that I would say.
And if you had to give some advice to someone who is new to Japan, though, maybe they're about to get on the plane and head over here, or they're posting their assignment in Japan, or they've just arrived in Japan on their assignment, they're probably early days. If you had to give us a couple of pieces of advice, say 3 pieces of advice or something like that anyway, what would be some advice you'd give to the newbie who's arrived in Japan, who doesn't have your experience and doesn't have your background?
Sure. One, I would say take the time to understand the cultural nuances of the country. It's very important, especially if you're coming in to lead a Japanese team and fully Japanese team, then it's very, very, very important.
How do you learn the cultural nuances of Japan?
That was going to be my second advice, which is build rapport. Take your time to build rapport with your team. And earlier, like I said, being patient is important. That helps you, not to be impatient and try to get things done your way because you're new and you're here to deliver results, and HQ is watching from far away. So I think, trying to be, patient, understand the cultural nuances, that helps you to build rapport with your team, because your team would now say, okay, this isn't just another guy who the HQ is sent to fix this office, right? And the final piece of advice would be open to your team's ideas. You don't always have all the solutions. You're maybe the leader, but you don't have the answers. You don't know the market. Your team's here for a reason. Learn to trust them. Open up to their ideas. That gives you also, again, another opportunity to build rapport with them. That would improve your credibility, improve how your team looks up to you as a leader, and helps you to then make change if change is required. Then you will get buy-in. Then you will get your team behind you. So,
well, this has been another fascinating journey through leadership with Robert, from coming here from the Maldives in the hospitality industry to go into the advertising space and sales, to entrepreneurial space to start his own company and build it up from himself to now 26, 27 people, 10-year anniversary of the first major magazine he launched, which was Acumen. So it's been a tremendous success. And he's really shared some insights today from the inside out in terms of working with people, what works best here. A lot of wisdom, a lot of insight. We can all learn from that. Robert, thank you very much today.
My pleasure. Thank you, Greg.
So we look forward to having you join us on the next episode of Japan's top business interviews.